So this is a page from Ted Greene's website, Ted Greene Legacy. I've done a lesson before from the same website, and that was on cadences. This time it's going to be on counterpoint. So I don't think Ted Greene needs an introduction to my audience, but you might not all be aware that there's this great website called the Ted Greene Legacy. I think it's run by his former students, and there's tons of lessons on there. So this one, again, is called Counterpoint Over a Major Chord. So I'm going to show you how I work with this stuff. They're little like fragments, I guess you could call them, or little motifs, two-part harmony. It's not really counterpoint, I guess, but let's call it two-part harmony. And I'm going to try to play these and use them in different ways. So let's get started, shall we? So the first little melody here sounds like this. So it's a very short little phrase. And then there's another melody, like a bass melody, which is just a triad. So C major triad. And then the melody. If I play them at the same time, it sounds like this. So I'm playing with my fingers. Maybe I should use a pick. So this is how I normally would play. Like if we're a jazz player, we usually play with picks. So I do some kind of hybrid picking. So that takes a little bit of getting used to if you're not used to that. But it's not super difficult because with speed is not an issue here. So we're going to need hybrid picking if we're going to play two parts at the same time, two melodies at the same time. Now let's just analyze this a little bit. It's a triad in the bass, and then there's a melody with chord tones on strong beats. Chord tone, chord tone, chord tone. So there are three ways you can kind of focus on this, or when you're practicing, if you're new to doing this stuff, you could focus on the top melody, of course. Or you can try to focus on the bass. Or you can try to think about when the two melodies coincide. What intervals are they creating? It's a 10th to a 6th to a 4th. So it's difficult to think about two melodies at the same time. So those are the ways you can do it, I think. Try to focus on one of the melodies so that hopefully the other melody will happen by itself, by muscle memory or whatever. Or try to focus on the intervals when they coincide. You want to make sure that the bass notes are long, so it's not... So that you might have to work with the fingerings for a while until you get a fingering that works. Okay, now what can we do with this? We could move it in cycles. So it's not on the page. This is my own ideas. So if I move it in seconds, it would sound like this. No. Okay, so that's a cycle according to the Mick Goodrick books, right? Like there's different cycles. What does he mean by that? Well, taking the 7 notes of a diatonic scale and moving them in a consistent pattern. So going up seconds. 7 notes and then I'm back. Could go up in thirds. And I'm back. The most common is to go up in fourths. So we're going up diatonically, so it's not symmetrical because the diatonic scale is not symmetrical. If I went up symmetrically, is that a word? It would sound like this. So that would be kind of parallel harmony, I guess. I think the most common cycle is the one that goes in fourths. So I'm moving in fourths. And then I'm back, right? Up a fourth, up a fourth, up a fourth, up a fourth. And that's 7 notes, and I'm back. So many tunes have this autumn leaves, flying to the moon, all the things you are. So many tunes, not just jazz, but many songs have this progression. Something pleasing about it. So now I'm gonna try to play this little melody with the bass note. So the melody is gonna sound like this. And of course the bass would be. So I want to be consistent when I do this because it's kind of tricky, right? So if I can be consistent, I'm playing one note and then 2 notes. 1 note, 2 notes. On a string, 1 on the string, 2 on the string. Right, so it's easier for to remember. So let's play those 2 things together. I'll try to do that. There's something funny about that melody, that the voice leading is not good. That's perfect, but that's not good voice leading, so let's fix that. So all I did was I dropped the octave there, right? That's a more vocal, as you could sing that. Whereas before it was kind of a funny jump there. So if I do that with the bass notes, I think it's even better to stop, make it like. You could change the bass, it doesn't have to be. It could be. You could change the direction of the bass. I like this. That sounds good in and of itself, but it's also a nicer, because this fourth is a little bit weird, so it's better there, because then we're kind of landing on a more it's always about consonant dissonances and consonant. The fourth is a little bit weird, but now it's in passing. some of these notes are kind of leading notes, like that happens to be a chromatic leading note because it is already in the scale. But here, I can make that a chromatic. You could even make the note leading into the next chord a chromatic leading note as well. So let's try that. So this is just getting into the habit of thinking of about two things at the same time. It's really good exercise. Notice that we're only on the first example of this page. And there's a whole bunch of these ideas. And then there's all the rest of the pages on that website. Another thing you could do, because we're moving in fourths, every chord could be a dominant to the next chord, kind of. So I could make the last interval a major third or a minor sixth instead when it's not. So I'll show you what I mean. So here. So that's like a B7 going to E. That's E major. Because we're leading to A minor, right? So of course you should be able to, at some point, it doesn't have to be in 3/4, it could be in 4/4, or try to improvise. Try to make music with it. So there are all these different cycles you could use, but you could also change the scale. I suggest working on major scale and harmonic and melodic minor, but I'll talk about minor. Let's just do it harmonic minor. So I'm gonna play the same thing, but I'll go back to where there were no chromatic leading notes, so secondary dominants, just the first example, and then I'll play it using C harmonic minor. It's gonna sound like this, right? you notice that it sounds a little bit funny sometimes because of that minor third. So the thing with minor, I think, is that the minor scale, instead of thinking harmonic minor, melodic minor, you could do this melodic minor too, but let's not do that right now, is I think of minor as all of those scales combined. If I play this same thing but with natural minor or Aeolian, it would just be the same thing we did before. It would just be major, right? This would be E flat major. I think of the scales combined. So, you know, you have in minor, you have more notes. Like it's almost like a 9-note scale. Like so sometimes I can just fix that melody, as it were, so that it's, when it sounds funny, I play B flat, and if it sounds A flat sounds funny, I play A, natural. So maybe something like play A there instead of A flat. Flat instead of B. So I really like this though. The sharp 5 there is great. And of course you could do the same thing we did before with the leading notes. Secondary dominance. There's one more thing you can do, because now we're stacking fourths, perfect fourths. If we go with minor, right? So the cycle is broken here, because that's an augmented fourth. You could delay that and play this instead. D flat, G, and then the augmented fourth happens next bar. So it's, I think it's called Neapolitan chord or something like that. Then it will sound like this. Pretty straightforward, it's not that strange. So I want to move on to a different cycle, but let's just look at a few more of these fragments on this page. This is a nice one. And then... so it's like 5, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1. And then the triad going up. Was bad fingering. So here I'm struggling with fingering, so if I would work on this, I would have to figure out a better fingering. Another one I like is this one. Sounds like a Charlie Parker. So 3, 7, 1, 2, 3, 5. These are all really good. It could just be going up a scale too. And then maybe those are just a few examples. Are you still with me? Now we're gonna look at a different cycle. Instead of going in fourths, we're gonna go in fifths. So C, G, D, A, E, B. So it's a little bit backwards. It's like Hotel California kind of, or was that Hey Joe, Jimi Hendrix? So if I play this pattern, in this cycle it sounds like that. So it's not a little bit funny. What if I do it more like... I like that better. So I went up in whole steps parallel instead of diatonically. Ultimately, you want to be able to kind of mix and match, and you could use modal interchange. There's so much you could do. So as I said, this is not really counterpoint for those of you who know what counterpoint actually is. So I'm not saying that Ted Greene doesn't know counterpoint. He probably does or did, but it's not like somebody like Anton Boyer who really understands counterpoint. Or if you watch that really famous video from GIT with Ted Greene when he's playing Autumn Leaves, and he starts to go like improvise in like a baroque style. It seems to me like he can do that. He can improvise in like counterpoint style, which is really amazing. You make sure you want to watch the correct video, because there are several videos from that seminar, but it's the only one where he's playing the whole piece. So that's the highest form of musicianship, I think, is when a musician can improvise like not just one melody, but like counterpoint style. It makes me think of somebody like Keith Jarrett, and he can do an intro where he just plays a standard, but he doesn't stay with the changes. He creates his own changes as an introduction or an outro of a standard. And it's like he can do whatever he wants, and it's so unbelievable. So let's just try to apply this to a situation. Imagine you're playing Autumn Leaves. So it could be an intro, right? Like, you know how the melody goes. So that's a triad. So I could take that phrase, that fragment, and move in a cycle. Or it could be harmonic minor. And then do a melody that goes up, maybe like that. And then you're in the tune. But you would have to do a little bit more. I was kind of starting there, but or it could be like an outro that you're playing along. And the band drops out and you're you get the idea. So I would have to work on this some more, but this could be a technique. So kind of high level performance when you can take the changes of a tune and then start to improvise it, but freely. So this was again from the Ted Greene Legacy website. The exercise I'm working on is called Counterpoint Over a Major Chord. And the PDFs of all the examples I played is on my Patreon page. And as always, I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I shall see you next time.